Hi everyone, I'm Work and I make minis in HeroForge. This week's mini is a little bit special. It's an angel, and this angel was made for another person, and this was part of like a celebration of like 100 followers on Instagram. So here we are. In this case, I was kind of just working with a description of a character. The character was kind of described as dark-skinned, but with golden eyes and long blonde hair. Kind of immediately when I read that, the color scheme reminded me of Mel Medarda. So that's kind of like what I was trying to do in this model. Right here you can kind of like see it with the markings and stuff. And with the golden eyes, I was trying to make it look angelic, like if it's supposed to be like an angel, it probably should look like an angel. This character was kind of interesting because it's like an angel, and angel they slash them angel, so it's like it was very open-ended for me whether the character was gonna like lean into like more masculine territory or like more feminine territory. I was like kind of like trying to balance both. I think the character does end up looking a little bit more feminine in the end, like the final result, but I think it's okay, I think it's okay. You can kind of see that I kind of also just reduced the chest a little bit, so it's like a little bit more non-clear what the gender of the character is. Another part of the descriptions were also immense wings, so we have those two as well. Then there was also almost poetic halo, and just like the description of like almost poetic, like I feel like this, it felt to me like this sort of a thing was meant to like blow you away when you see it, when you see this angel. The halo is made of accretion gyre discs. It also looks pretty damn good. The character itself is fulfilling divine missions, and their anchor is like a lantern of shadows. I kind of like managed to capture like those shadows in the lantern. You can kind of like see here the decal floating there. And I think it like captures it rather well. And this is like what it looks like without the decal. So I think like this decal does quite a bit to help. And since it's like a lantern, that the character had, I was thinking like I wanted to like this character like shine with this lantern on something. Also, the lantern is like an anchor, but it's like binding the character to this world. So I felt like it would be appropriate to also have the angel like chained up to show that, yeah, okay, like this character is like anchored by this item. Another thing was also that the lantern is able to transform into a breathtaking breathtaking golden bow. So this was also just like another thing to think about, like whether I want to do like more of a martial character with like a bow, or if I want to show off the lantern, or kind of like attempt to show off both. But the character didn't really give me like a martial vibe, so hence why I kind of like went more with the lantern. And the last part of the character was also that this character is learning to cherish the moments, because like, well, angels are kind of like eternal beings, and this eternal being is essentially like bound to this world, so they're essentially like learning what whatever like brief here is in this moment. I don't know if I fucking know what the fuck I'm saying. Okay, I'm just gonna read it, okay? Because of their longevity, because of their long longevity, their story is about learning to cherish the moments while they exist, knowing that everything eventually reaches its inevitable end. And so at first I was like thinking maybe I could put this character with somebody who is dead, and this character is like mourning the death of another character. But then I had the idea that maybe I could make a baby in HeroForge. And so, like kind of like to show that part with the character and just like learning to appreciate like brief moments in life, I figured it would be maybe fun to have this character interact with a baby because, like when you're a baby, it's a very brief time for the person and it's a very vulnerable time for a person. And I felt like this connection between like the divine being and something mortal would be quite beautiful. So yeah, so we have like a bit of a Moses scene, you know, going on with our angel. But this is kind of like the character. I have them posed on a pier over water, you know, and they're just like hanging out there. So yeah, that's the character. So let's take a look at some previous versions of Ophaniel. Here we have like the absolute basic version of the character. Then I started working on the halo. I'm again using the fungal features on the face because like fungal features are like so flexible and they can like create like really beautiful patterns. And the idea of the halo was quite immediate. I think this is like the best halo you can do in HeroForge in my opinion. And we also have the lantern coming in. So one thing that wasn't really clear to me was how I was going to dress the character. Because I felt like the character could kind of go both ways. Like I could either put this character in like these silky clothes, or I could like put them in like a battle armor and have like a battle angel, And it wasn't specified like what armor this character has. I felt like this was the safer option. And just because this person is in like silky clothes, it doesn't mean that they cannot put on like armor later. Then I started working on the eyes and the face. It was quite simple to make these eyes. Like all you need to do is you have to like edit the iris to be like a large size. This is like what it looks like normally. This is what it looks like normally, but when you make the irises bigger, it looks more beautiful. I also painted the inside of the mouth so that it looks like the light is shining within the person. I did something similar for my Warforged as well. For a moment, I was like, should I maybe like do some sort of an ethereal environment? But I felt like this was like a little bit too close to that like one special place in Attack on Titan. So I was like, okay, maybe let's not do these sands. And the expression of the character at first, I was going for something that is like in pain and mourning. Like I said, more motifs of light on the character. And then I also gave the markings on the arms. I don't want to go like all the way with like Melmedarda having it all over the body, but I definitely want to have like this contrast between like darker skin and this like these like light motifs. Now this is the part where I changed up the strategy and I was gonna put the angel near a body of water. I actually started working on this angel right after Stranger, so I kind of had like an idea on how to like make the water already. It was quite a funny coincidence. And then I had to like figure out like, okay, how am I going to put this angel on this scene? I mean, like the angel is supposed to like sit down next to a basket, and at first I was like thinking maybe they could be sitting on the rocks, but then I felt like these rocks are really going to be uncomfortable for the angel, so that's why we see like Pier later on. So here I'm like struggling with the positioning. You can kind of see like the size of the model in comparison to the rocks and why it was like a bit of a challenge. And here like it looks a little bit weird, you know. We have the angel man spreading and it doesn't work. I was also trying out something like this, and I already had the idea that the angel is going to hold the lantern, and the baby and the angel are going to connect with a touch with the finger. And of course, I was feeling like those wings are going to like create like a sort of like an embrace, a protection for the child, you know. And then I was like, okay, am I going to just dip the angel inside, you know? And also I just kind of like felt like I needed to make the wings much smaller because they were poking out a little bit too much out of the base. Here is where I started working on the baby. Look how ridiculous this baby looks. So yeah, this was like the baby, and then I like ported it to make a baby scene. I was looking like at babies for reference, so I felt like this was like an appropriate baby size. And it does look a little bit derpy, but I felt like it's like okay, look, some babies they are born derpy, so and then they usually turn out alright. So here we have like the comparison between the two models. We have the baby and we have like an angel. This is where I had the idea to create like a peer that is like watching over the baby, and this is also where I felt like the character model was like way too big for the angel, so I had to like make it smaller. But you can kind of see the idea here. And also with the water, I felt like it would be pretty fun to maybe try to add something flowing in the water, maybe like an attempt at a lotus. It's actually a succulent model. And you can see that I made the angel model smaller so that it is able to fit the pier better. And then I also pimped out the baby a little bit, give it a bit of a small head. And then I also started working on where the baby was going to rest. And for this, I use like woolish cloak stuff. And I managed to tuck in the baby. It's looking cute. It's looking cute. And this is where the angel sits down comfortably on the pier. And this is where the lantern made its appearance into the mini. And also we had, I finally managed to connect the baby with the little finger, you know. So I wanted to create like a sort of a light scene where this lantern is putting out light, but around it there is going to be like a nighttime. I started putting on clothes on the character, and I felt like just like these silk clothes are kind of iconic for angels. Now this other piece of clothing here is actually just kit bashed, you know, it's the same like the main one, except it's kit bashed thing, yeah. So it looks like they are kind of like connected. And I felt like it was kind of appropriate to give a sort of a celestial theme on the clothing for the angels as well. So not only the angel has a bit of a small universe under the eyes and in the eyes, it also has a bit of a universe on their clothing. And one last thing I need to fix with the outfit was also just like cover the the between the legs, I guess, in the front and in the back. And so I just like kit bashed this piece of clothing, and it ends up looking like this. One funny thing that I didn't notice is that the water looks a little bit drunk. This is also what I kind of like fixed last like week or something like that. And the water looks a little bit drunk because I actually attached the water to the baby. And the reason why I attached the water to the baby is so that I have a little bit more decals to work with. So if we go, for example, here into the decals and here into the projected decals, I am using some projected decals on the model, like here, here, and here, to make it look like there is nighttime going on, right? So that's like one reason why I was using these projected decals. But also I am using circle gradients in the extra here to make the water more dynamic and make an illusion that the lantern illuminates the water. So that's kind of the idea, and that's why I kind of attached the water to the baby. Let me know what you think. There's also going to be another video released with this one, and it's going to be like a reaction reveal. So I hope you look forward to that. This happened like maybe 3 months ago or something like that. So yeah. All right. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye bye.